The Black Lord, the Black Hand, the Lord of Darkness. All are names for Bane, the god of strife, hatred, and tyranny in the Faerunian Pantheon. He is the ultimate tyrant, striving to rule over all. According to him, Faerun, the mortals within, and even the gods themselves should all bow before Bane. When the average Faerunian thinks of evil, Bane's face is the one that comes to mind. When he was slain during the time of troubles, at least 27 nations declared festivals to celebrate the triumph of good, which seems like the exact thing that Bane wants: fear. Normally I do a history section on these videos where I go over the earliest records of the god and what they've been up to since then. However, I have already covered Bane's history in my previous two videos, titled How the Dead Three Became Gods and History of the Dead Three. The former covering his life as a mortal and how he became a god, and the latter explaining what he has done since becoming a god and where he is now. So if you want to know his history and have some context, you should just watch both of those, and I'll put their links in the description. So, what is Bane like? First, let's start with his personality. Bane is the god of hatred, strife, and tyranny. He is the ultimate tyrant, a purely evil being who revels in hatred, strife, and the subjugation of those weaker than him. He wishes to conquer Faerun, become the most powerful god, and rule over all others. His favorite vice is manipulating mortals through their fear of him, and everything he says and does is done to further that goal. He prefers to work in the shadows. Being a god of tyranny, he'd rather command his minions to do his bidding as opposed to getting his own hands dirty. He does not accept failure, and will lash out with no regret, torturing even his most loyal servant to ensure complete obedience. But he only does this when absolutely necessary. He is slow to anger and prefers to not use brute force if it is not needed. Relationships. Bane hates most of the Faerunian Pantheon. Obviously, he doesn't get along well with the good-aligned gods, and evil beings rarely get along with each other, putting him at odds with many evil deities. Additionally, Bane is a god of tyranny. He wants to be the most powerful being and rule over everyone else, which makes him especially difficult to work with. Since he wants to be the most powerful god, it makes sense that his most hated enemy is Mystra, the most powerful deity in realm space. He aspires to kill her and take her portfolio over all magic, which would then make him the most powerful god in Toril. After the time of troubles, Mystra was only his third most hated god, the first being Torm, since he killed him, and the second being Cyric, since he stole his portfolio and converted or killed many of his followers. Bane is the leading member of the Dead Three, also known as the Dark Three, a trio of the evil gods Bane, Baal, and Myrkul. They seem to work together pretty well, as they are almost always scheming and enacting their plots together. They worked together during the time of troubles and even ascended to godhood as mortals together, not to mention all the other shenanigans they got up to in the Baldur's Gate games. Now, they are extraordinarily evil beings, so I doubt there's much actual love between them, and Bane did command Myrkul to enact a ritual that killed all of Baal's assassin worshippers to empower him, which probably pissed Baal off, so I don't know if I'd go as far as saying that they're friends, but they seem to work together well and consider each other as allies. Since he commanded Baal, and Baal had Loviatar and Talana under his thumb, Bane indirectly controlled them as well, and when Baal was dead for a century, Bane reasserted his control over both. He was also said to have an alliance with Mask, but all three of these deities followed Bane out of fear and not loyalty, so the alliance was tenuous. The 3rd edition book Forgotten Realms campaign setting says that he rekindled his old alliance with Malar, but I can't find any mention of him ever having an alliance with Malar outside of that one sentence. During the Spell Plague, Bane also dominated Tiamat, Abathor, Hor, Hrugek, and Maglubiet, but after the Second Sundering, they regained their independence. Bane also has a half-fiend son named Iaktu Zvim, who was subservient to him, but not of his own volition as he hated his father. After Bane died, Cyric took his portfolio, Iakdu Zvim then took the portfolio from Cyric and ruled in Bane's place for a few years, before Bane was reborn by emerging from Iakdu Zvim's body, splitting him open in a burst of green flames and presumably killing him. Truthfully, Zvim is still alive, albeit trapped in a significantly weakened incorporeal form. He appears to his followers as whispers in their dreams and nightmares, and spends his time attempting to accrue more worshippers to empower himself, and then eventually destroy the Church of Bane. Bane was also said to have been in a relationship with Kapatito, the demigoddess of disease and the sister of Loviatar, but this ended when she discovered he was attempting to steal her divine power. His planar servitors are devils, beholders and their kin, death tyrants, which are beholders who rebelled against or failed Bane and returned into undead as punishment, imps, maleficents, which are evil elephantine creatures from the Nine Hells, Banelar, which are nagas that worship Bane and are empowered by him, sympathetics, which are chaotic evil birds originally from Malodomini, the 7th layer of the Nine Hells, and pride incarnates. Incarnates are beings of pure energy that embody abstract principles, in this case pride, and they possess people. Bane also has a fiendish raven named Corvus who fights with him, but other than the name and stat block, I couldn't find any actual lore on him. Appearance. In religious art, Bane was usually depicted as either a looming black hand ready to crush the world in its palm, an empty black throne, or a shadowy humanoid figure wearing black clothes streaked with red and sitting on a throne of skulls. Bane manifested to his followers as blazing red eyes made of fire and surrounded by darkness, or a black taloned hand of coldness reaching out of a cloud of blackness. His avatar was a handsome, black-haired man with oily looks and a cruel manner. That being said, the appearance of Bane's avatar was not a welcome moment for his clergy, as this usually meant he wanted to personally punish a failed disciple. Bane uses his avatars as morale officers, not soldiers. He is a tyrant, so he has his minions do his work for him. Because of this, he seldom materializes his own avatar. Instead, he prefers to possess someone else to serve as his avatar, usually choosing a good-looking, young male from a background of wealth, culture, and power, usually a nobleman. However, regardless of who he possessed, they would surely take the appearance of Bane's avatar. Anyone he possessed had no control over their body, but were still conscious and aware of what was happening, usually going insane from witnessing Bane ruin the lives of those he loved. Although the texts describe his avatar and his form taking on the appearance of a young, handsome man, a lot of the artwork that I see, he almost looks fiendish or monstrous. Like in this one, he's got green skin and horns on his head, and a lot of them he has like horns on his chin that almost look like a goatee, and he's got pointed ears. It doesn't really match up to his text description, which I'm fine with because Bane is supposed to be this domineering, scary, terrifying authority figure that strikes fear in his subjects, and that is a lot scarier than just like some hot twink. Now, there is some more recent Magic the Gathering art that does depict him as a young, handsome male. However, he doesn't have the black hair he's supposed to have. He has like white hair. He really looks like an anime character. It's not at all how I imagined him. But the thing that drives me the most crazy is he's wearing blue armor. Bane and his clergy always wear black with a little bit of red, never blue. So I don't know why he's just decked out in blue armor. He looks nothing like I imagined Bane, and this artwork really makes me angry for some reason. Combat. In combat, Bane's right hand would be gauntleted, and upon striking someone with it, they had to succeed a saving throw versus death or instantly die. Otherwise, he could take on a bestial transformation where his face became animal-like, his eyes lit with flame, his skin became black and charred and pulled taut around his skull, and his hands turned into sharp talons. In 2nd edition, his avatar is a level 36 cleric, level 35 fighter, level 30 mage, and a level 10 thief. In 3rd edition, his avatar was a level 10 blackguard, level 10 cleric, level 15 fighter, level 20 rogue, and level 10 wizard. Worshippers. Baneites enjoy, quote, exercising power over others within the security of a rigid hierarchy and rules, end quote. Law enforcers who ruin innocent people's lives because they get off on the power trip, soldiers who take advantage of their positions to fulfill their sadistic desires on enemies and civilians alike, and dictators who do whatever they can to ensure they keep their power, are all examples of what a Baneite is. However, not all who worship Bane do so with evil intentions. Those who have ambition but lack control pray to Bane for strength. He favors courage and drive, and gives aid to those who bring order to lawlessness. This can of course include power-hungry dictators, predatory merchants, and ruthless slavers, but it can just as often be heroes who defeat bandits and raiders, remove corrupt rulers from positions of power, and save armies on the brink of destruction. Members of Bane's clergy do not like to shout or lose their temper, instead valuing sarcasm and cold but decisive speech, thought, and action. The Church. Organization within the Church. To be a clergy member of the Church of Bane in 2nd edition, one had to be either a cleric, specialty priest, wizard, or crusader. If you're like me and can only think in 5th edition terms, this would be the equivalent of cleric, wizard, and paladin. Paladins and Crusaders were two different classes in 2nd edition, but narratively they feel extremely similar, both being holy warriors who serve a deity. The only real difference I could find is Crusaders had less restrictions, so they didn't have to be lawful good like Paladins did. In later editions, this distinction is removed and they're all just called Paladins. Additionally, specialty priests and clerics were both types of priests, but the latter was generic and got their powers from multiple gods, while the former got their power only from one god. Once again, this distinction is removed in later editions and they're all just called clerics. In 2nd edition, a clergy member had to be of evil alignment, but it could be any evil alignment, so lawful evil, neutral evil, and chaotic evil were all permitted. In 3rd edition, chaotic evil is not allowed, but lawful neutral is. The Church of Bane, particularly near Zhentarim Keep, had a large amount of wizards in their ranks, so much so that it actually caused a divide within the hierarchy between two factions, the Orthodox, which were mostly clerics, and the Transformed, which were mostly wizards. Throughout the years, Bane allowed various splinter sects to thrive and fight with each other because it brought loyal service to him and he delighted in the strife. But after his resurrection post-Time of Troubles, he eradicated these divisions. His death seems to have cleared his mind, allowing him to understand that an organized and united church is more effective than a fractious self-destructive one. Specialty priests of Bane were called Dreadmasters, and they got a couple fun abilities like immunity to fear, and whenever they wielded a Rod of Terror, a Rod of Rulership, or a Wand of Fear, they were empowered and stronger than in other people's hands. If you would like to look at a cleric subclass, a couple spells, and a magic item for 5th edition that would fit the theme of a god of tyranny really well, but that legally has nothing to do with Bane or any intellectual property owned by Wizards of the Coast, you should check out my Patreon for $5 where I have uploaded exactly that. I would like to be adding more unique stuff to my Patreon just to keep you guys interested and to give my supporters just something to look at, but I am legally very limited in what I'm allowed to post on there, and as you know, I'm much more of a lore guy who's just really into like the Forgotten Realms and stuff, and I can't talk about any of that stuff on there. So for now, I'm just putting up a couple setting agnostic rules like spells and classes and stuff. I know that's not why you guys watch me, but it's just something to have for my supporters, just so that they're not getting nothing. Let's get back to the hierarchy within the Church of Bane. Novices in the church were called slaves, but once named by Bane from a speaking altar or dream vision, they then became full-fledged priests and received the title Watchful Brother or Watchful Sister. A player character starting at 1st level would have this title. At 2nd level, they had the title of Deadly Adept, and then up the ranks it went Trusted Servant, Willing Whip, Hooded Menace, Black Fang, Striking Hand, Vigilant Talon, Masked Death, Dark Doom, Higher Doom, and then finally at 12th level and up, they were called Deep Mystery. Any clergy of this rank would refer to higher ranking members simply as Deeper Mystery. In addition to being called Deep Mystery, clergy of this rank would often bestow themselves a unique title. Examples include Vigilator, Lord or Lady of Mysteries, Lord or Lady of the Hand, Imperceptor, Dark Imperceptor, Grand Bloodletter, and High Inquisitor. However, if a higher ranking clergy member didn't refer to you by your self-given title, then it wasn't formally recognized. The highest ranking title in the Church of Bane was the High Imperceptor. Only one living High Imperceptor exists at any given time, but many still survive as Bane Liches. Every half-century or so, Bane would reveal the secrets of Bane lichdom to his most powerful priest, allowing them to serve Bane for eternity in undeath. A Bane Lich had the same powers as a Lich, but instead of a wizard, they were a cleric, and it was only possible if Bane revealed to them how. Baneites addressed each other by title only. However, they would add a surname if there were multiple priests of the same rank present. If non-clergy members were present, they would refer to each other simply as Brother Faithful or Sister Faithful. However, if they were speaking to someone considerably higher in rank than themselves, then instead they called them Dread Brother or Dread Sister. Dogma. Quote, "The strong have not just the right, but the duty to rule over the weak. A tyrant who is able to seize power must do so, for not only does the tyrant benefit, but so do those under the tyrant's rule. When a ruler succumbs to decadence, corruption, or decrepitude, a stronger and more suitable ruler will rise." End quote. Baneites believed that those who worshipped other deities met swifter and harsher ends, and so devoted themselves mostly to Bane and regarded everyone else as fools. To get an idea of their philosophy, here's what Bane whispers in the dreams of new initiates. Quote, "Serve no one but me. Fear me always, and make others fear me even more than you do. The Black Hand always strikes down those who stand against it in the end. Defy me and die, or in your death find loyalty, for I shall compel it. Submit to my will, since true power can only be gained through service to me. It is the doom of those unguided by me to let power spill through their hands." End quote. Day-to-day activities. Bane wishes to rule the world, and so he tasks his clergy with rising to power in every realm by any means necessary. This can be done subtly and patiently by rising to power in a guild or small town, or may be done forcefully by raising armies and conquering nations. As long as more territory is under the sway of the Black Hand, Bane is happy. Hatred, strife, destruction, and the dark fear of Bane should be spread, but it should be done in an orderly, controlled manner. Bane prefers his followers to carry out his dark will within the confines of the local rule of law, but a limited amount of discord is permitted. They must always follow the orders of their superior, as disobedience is an insult to Bane's supremacy. All rules of the church should be followed perfectly, but the rules of others are no rules at all. Holy days and important ceremonies. Prayers to Bane were done before or after going into battle, before committing subterfuge, and before eating as a way of thanking Bane for allowing his worshipper to live long enough to taste the food. His clerics pray for their spells at midnight. In regards to holy days, the Church of Bane doesn't actually have any. None of their rituals are tied to specific dates or seasons. They happen whenever the leading clergy declare they will, usually spurred on by dream visions. I couldn't find any examples as to what occasions these rituals are usually called for, but I would assume they do this for promotions within the ranks and anytime the church was tasked with an important quest. These rituals never had a specific name, as they were known by many. Their dark rituals were always held in dimly lit places and took place around the Black Altar, a plain black stone block with a large black stone hand of Bane floating above it, usually done by wizardly magic or magic item. If no black stone was available, they would either paint it black or drape it with black cloth. These rituals always involved rolling drums, chanting, and the sacrifice of intelligent life. The sacrifice had to be tortured, humiliated, and show fear, or it was an unacceptable sacrifice to Bane. They normally died by slashing, flogging, or being crushed by the Black Hand of Bane. Temples. Bane's temples resembled fortresses or keeps more than religious institutions, and displayed the church's rigid and disciplined doctrines. They were tall, sharp-cornered structures of stone decorated with spikes and thin windows. Their interiors had bare atriums, and the common chambers for the lay clergy resembled military barracks decorated with tapestries that depicted Bane or religious passages. They usually had central courtyards for military drills and ceremonies, a mass hall for the whole congregation, and subterranean dungeons containing torture chambers, starvation wells, and monster pens. Major centers of worship. The Church of Bane in Mulemaster, called the Black Lord's Altar, was usually said to be the center of his faith. However, the largest temple to Bane was the Black Lord's Cloak in Morktar, on the edge of the flat plains of Threskel. The temple is named after its relic, a black cloak worn by Bane himself. It became a sentient monster that occasionally envelops people and sucks all their blood. Additionally, the Church of Bane became the primary faith in Thay after the Spell Plague. This is because when Zhentarim was throwing his coup in Thay, the Spell Plague happened and significantly weakened him, as magic was extremely unpredictable and oftentimes lethal for the caster during this time. He summoned Bane and made a deal. Bane obliged as he was impressed by his boldness. He gave Zhentarim the knowledge of how to cast magic without blowing up and a significant boost in power, in exchange for Zhentarim's soul in 1,000 years, and for him to decree that Bane is the only god allowed to be worshipped in Thay. So, for the next century, Bane's faith was the only one allowed in Thay. By 1492, Zhentarim had allowed the worship of other deities. However, Bane's church is still the most popular faith in the country and the unofficial state religion. Anyone looking to climb the social or political ladder in the country of Thay is going to want to be seen praying and offering at their local temple to Bane. Affiliated Orders. The Knights of the Black Gauntlet are an order of crusaders and helmed horrors based in Mentar, a city on the shores of the Lake of Steam. It was formed in 1362, several years after Bane died in the Time of Troubles, when a ghostly black hand appeared in the satrap's throne room from which Teldorn Darkhope, Lord Knight and Preceptor of Bane, came through with a small company of black knights, killed the ruler, and declared himself Dark Tyrant of Mentar. He recruits mercenaries from across the globe and indoctrinates them to loyalty to Bane, turning the dissidents into helmed horrors. Clothing. Baneite clergy members were always armed and wore black. Their ceremonial garb was black armor with blood-red capes for priests and black robes for wizards, although high-ranking wizards would enchant them to swirl with black stars and splashes of spilling blood. When adventuring, priests still wore black armor, but this armor usually had spikes, hooks, and other pointy ends, while wizards wore long, flowing black and red robes. Facial tattoos were common among all Baneites. The Zhentarim. We can't really talk about Bane without talking about the Zhentarim. The Zhentarim are an evil mercantile organization and a mercenary company focused on controlling as much as possible by manipulation, sheer dominance, or by extinguishing what they can't control. Now, the Zhentarim is not a religious organization. It was started by the wizard man Shun to control the major political centers of the Moonsea region. However, early on, he saw use in working with the Church of Bane in order to help each other with their goals. One of the members of the Inner Circle is Fazul Chimbril, a high priest of Bane. So while it isn't an extension of the Church of Bane, it does have a lot of Baneite influence within. And given its goals of wanting to control as much as Faerun as possible, it should come as no surprise that many of its members are loyal Bane worshippers. When Bane was cast to Toril during the Time of Troubles, he was able to walk into Zhentil Keep and tell the leaders what to do. When Bane died, the organization became devoted to Cyric, and then Iaktu Zvim a few years later when Fazul Chimbril, now a priest of Zvim, conspired against his influence. Then, when Bane returned in 1372, Fazul and most of Zvim's and Cyric's followers pledged themselves back to Bane. So, as of the 1370s, the Black Network was controlled by Fazul and the Church of Bane, with plans to become an arm of the church itself. After the Spell Plague, 2 out of 3 of the Zhentarim's main fortresses were destroyed by the returned Netherese. The remaining bastion of Darkhold still possessed a strong following of Cyric, so as of 1479, Cyric was the more influential god within the organization, even though there were still many Zhents who worship Bane, including Fazul. As of the current 5th edition time period of the 1490s, I couldn't find anything that stated which god had more prominence within the organization, but if anyone has more insight, let me know in the comments. Unique spells. Here's a list of spells that are unique to Priest of Bane. As far as I'm aware, Bane is the only one who grants these spells to his clergy. The first up is the Doom of Bane, a 4th level necromancy spell. This turns a corpse into the animated force of a helmed horror. The way it works is that someone must wear a suit of armor. Then, the priest casts Doom of Bane on a bipedal corpse that has to have been evil at one point in its life. The corpse enters the armor while it is being worn, which is described as chilling for the individual wearing the armor, and they often faint. Now, I'm not exactly sure how it enters a suit of armor being worn by someone else, but the idea is that the corpse becomes the animating force of the helmed horror. Once it becomes a Helmed Horror 10 minutes later, there is no corpse anymore as it is destroyed, and Helmed Horrors are not considered undead creatures. So I guess the physical corpse itself doesn't actually enter, but rather it's destroyed and its energy is turned into a spectral-like life energy that animates the armor. But I was honestly kind of confused by the details of how this spell works. Essentially, a corpse is turned into an animating force that then animates a suit of armor and creates a Helmed Horror. As I said, the corpse is destroyed during this process, preventing resurrection, undead animation, speak with dead, and other similar abilities that require corpses. The spell requires a pinch of bone powder or bone shard, a pinch of dust, and a complete non-magical suit of metal armor. Dark Promise, a 5th level enchantment spell. It was originally designed to help cover up Baneite operations, but now that Bane worship has grown in popularity and they are no longer hunted everywhere, its use has dwindled. The caster must carefully word a promise, a set of circumstances the target of the spell must follow, that must have Bane's interest at heart and isn't suicidal. Impermissible phrasing such as "don't breathe" or "never eat" will cause the spell to fail. Common promises include "do not return to this place" or "never again attack a priest of Bane." If the target breaks the promise, they permanently lose 1 HP per day until they die, and this cannot be healed or cured in any way outside a wish spell. The Dark Promise can only be lifted by the original caster, a wish spell, or a remove curse cast by a good aligned priest of higher level than the caster of the Dark Promise. If the target is unwilling, they are allowed a save versus spell to resist the spell. Only 1 Dark Promise can be in effect on a creature at one time. Mystic Lash, 5th level evocation. This spell creates a long whip made of a ghostly, glowing red force that crackles with lightning in the priest's hands. Once they strike a creature with it, they may let go of the lash and it will continue to attack that creature each turn, while the priest is free to perform other actions such as spellcasting. If the target dies, falls unconscious, or is somehow removed from combat, it returns to the priest's hands, and if they don't grab it that round, the spell ends. The whip deals 2d8 lightning damage, although targets are allowed a save versus spell to take half, and it inflicts 1 of 6 effects upon each strike. The priest chooses which effect if they are wielding it, but if it is acting on its own, the effect is chosen at random. These effects include being stunned from their incapability to think coherently, being paralyzed, being racked with pain and dropping all held items, taking extra damage as the lightning lashes out and disintegrates a metal item, forgetting a memorized spell or command word, or being entwined by the lightning and then unwound, launching them away from the whip and taking impact damage. The material components for this spell are the priest's holy symbol and a piece of amber. Create Bane Guard, 6th level necromancy. The priest animates a medium or smaller skeleton into a Bane Guard. A Bane Guard is basically just an undead skeleton, but with slightly stronger stats, the ability to cast Blink and Magic Missile, and is, quote, gifted with a degree of malicious intelligence, end quote. The material components are the priest's holy symbol and at least 20 drops of blood of a true dragon. Spirit Annihilation, 6th level necromancy. This spell was created by clerics of Bane centuries ago to prevent spells from retrieving information from the victims of Baneites through Speak with Dead or other similar means. The spell must be cast on someone who is about to die, at 0 HP, or who has died within 1 round per level of the caster. Keep in mind a round in 2nd edition was 1 minute. The victim's spirit is completely annihilated. It is caught by the spell before reaching its afterlife in the outer planes and is utterly shattered. This prevents spells such as Speak with Dead, Raise Dead, Resurrection, and Reincarnation. Undead After Death, 6th level necromancy. This spell is cast on worshippers of Bane right before death at 0 HP, or right after death, within 1 round per level of the caster, and turns them into a powerful undead to better serve Bane. The exact type of undead the Baneite is turned to is dependent on how powerful they were in life. So if they were level 1, they are transformed into a ghoul, but if they were level 18 or higher, they turned into a vampire. If the caster is lower level than the target, they must make a save versus death or instantly die. However, the spell still works normally. The spell only works on Baneites, people who worship Bane as their primary deity. On anyone else, it will fail. The material component is a black obsidian heart with the symbol of Bane and the recipient's name carved into it, and it is shattered during the ceremony. Death Symbol of Bane, 7th level conjuration. This is similar to the spell Symbol, which creates a magical glyph on the ground or object, and when a specified trigger is met, something harmful happens. But the death symbol of Bane is a better version of that spell that lasts significantly longer. It lasts until it has run out of charges, and it gains 1 charge for each creature whose blood is used in its making. The blood is mixed into a paste with ground black opal dust worth at least 5,000 gold pieces, and diamond dust also worth at least 5,000 gold pieces. This paste is then used to draw the symbol. Technically, only 3 drops of each creature's blood is necessary, but Baneites tend to kill them anyways, which seems incredibly wasteful to me. Once complete, the symbol vanishes and can only be detected by magic. It is usually placed on a door or portal and is activated when any creature of the types whose blood was used in its creation and that aren't wearing a holy symbol of Bane walk through. Once triggered, it explodes with life-draining energy. Any creatures within 10 feet instantly die if they fail a save versus death. Ones within 20 feet are withered, taking 1d12 damage on a failed save versus paralyzation, and they have a 30% chance of 1 point of that damage to be permanent. And creatures within 40 feet are racked with stabbing pains for 2d10 rounds, giving them a -2 to attack rolls and -1 to dexterity if they fail a save versus breath weapon. Moonveil, 7th level abjuration and alteration. This is a complicated evil ritual used to veil moonwells. Moonwells are pools of clear water in the Moonshae Isles that are sacred to Shantia. However, the spell can foul other magical waters as well. The ritual involves chanting, dancing around the pool, and sacrificing someone once per round. The moonwell is then covered by a black carpet of mist that blocks all beneficial effects from the moonwell, fouls any holy water or sweetwater potions within 90 feet, and lessens Shantia's influence in the area, preventing her from awakening or directing her children. The black mist was corrosive, melting anyone or anything that came into contact with it, and it reflected back any spells of 6th level or lower back at the caster. The only known ways of destroying a moonveil are a specifically crafted variant of the Sunray spell and Sanctify Sacred Site, a 7th level spell exclusive to priests of Shantia. The material components are a piece of burned bone of a creature native to the Moonshaes, the blood of 1 living creature per round of the ritual, a pinch of dung, a pinch of ashes, a dried snakeskin, and a small vial of liquid poison. The last Baneite-specific spell is Stonewalk, a 7th level alteration and necromancy spell. This is a special form of teleportation used to link far-apart temples for emergency journeys. It circumvents all known magical barriers against teleportation. The priest selects 2 flat, stony areas they wish to teleport between. Usually each are in a different temple to Bane that are far apart. These areas must be prepared with a ritual before casting the spell. This ritual requires the spellcaster to bathe, wash the selected stony areas thoroughly, and outline these areas with a paste made from 4 crushed rubies worth at least 5,000 gold pieces each while whispering the chosen password. This preparation must be done at both sites and within 444 days of casting the spell. Only after both sites have been properly prepared may the priest cast Stonewalk, and only the one who prepared the sites can do the casting. Once cast, one can teleport between these stony areas by standing on it and speaking the password set by the caster. It is perfectly safe transportation with no chance of errors and bypasses all magical defenses against teleportation. It is a single, one-way trip for one person and up to 100 pounds of items worn or carried, and it can do this a number of times equal to the caster's level. The material components of the spell are a piece of spider silk 1 foot in length, 2 diamonds worth 5,000 gold pieces, a handful of earth, and a wing feather of any flying bird. Now, this is for the actual casting of the spell, not including the preparatory ritual done beforehand. That, as I previously mentioned, requires 4 crushed rubies worth 5,000 gold pieces each, totaling 20,000 gold pieces worth of rubies. But that's just for one location. You have to then link 2 different areas, and you have to do this for each one, which is 40,000 gold pieces worth of rubies, plus the 2 5,000 gold piece diamonds. So all in all, this spell costs 50,000 gold pieces worth of precious gems, which are consumed, all to be able to teleport a little over a dozen times. You can see why they save it only for emergencies or situations of the utmost importance, but the reason you would take this over other teleportation spells is that it can bypass all magical defenses against teleportation, which not many things can do that. Divine Realm. Bane's Divine Realm is the Black Bastion, a towering edifice of adamantine, obsidian, ebony, and jet, sucking the light out of the sky and casting shadows all around it. Here he rules with an iron fist from his throne of skulls, amassing soldiers from across the plains. In the Great Wheel cosmology, the Black Bastion was located on Avalis, the first layer of Acheron. After Bane died in the Time of Troubles, this realm drifted in the astral plane. In 3rd edition, the Forgotten Realms used the World Tree cosmology. In this model, the Black Bastion was located in the Barrens of Doom and Despair, a bleak, featureless, inhospitable plain of black sand expanses, granite plains, and canyons ringed by obsidian cliffs. In 4th edition, D&D used the World Axis cosmology. Here, the Black Bastion was located in Banehold, a plane ruled entirely by Bane that floated in the astral sea. 5th edition returned to the Great Wheel cosmology, so one could assume that the Black Bastion is back in Acheron. However, Bane is in mortal form on Toril in 5th edition, so he can't actually be in his divine realm in the Outer Planes. What has happened to the Black Bastion in his absence, who currently controls it, and how much power Bane still holds over it from the material plane is unclear. And that is everything about Bane, the god of tyranny. If you want to know more about Bane, his quest for godhood, or why he's currently stuck in mortal form, you should check out my 2 previous videos that I mentioned earlier that are up on the screen right now. Also, make sure to check out my Patreon if you're interested in that 5e subclass Spells of Magic item. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you want more D&D videos, just remember to subscribe.